G'day folks, Jason here on the other farm. I'm actually on the trial property this afternoon, guys. I'm just getting a bit of gear ready. I'm going to move the girls into the next cell. But what I want to talk about today, before I go ahead and move them, is 2.5 years ago I started down this regenerative farming route, or regenerative ranching route. And when I started, I didn't know when was a good time to start. I just thought, there's no time like the present. And I just went out and started at the start of winter, which I probably is the hardest time to start. So what I want to do today, guys, is give you guys some viable options or opinions where I think is a good time, or when is a good time to start down the regenerative farming route. So what I want to do is I want to give 3 options of how to start and also when to start in what season. I'll start off by saying, guys, if you don't want to roll out fodder or hay, then the following opinion is my opinion on the best season to start. So winter would not be my choice. The simple reason is most things are dormant over winter because of the cold weather. So you're not going to get the grass growing back at a rapid rate, guys. It virtually goes dormant unless you got a good cool season mix already through your pasture. You're not going to get the growth as you would in, say, spring or summer, because you've got that spring flush coming through, guys. So you've got the regrowth coming spring, the weather's starting to warm up, and hopefully you get that rain. So your fodder, or sorry, your forage is going to just blossom and come to life, guys, unlike winter where it's dormant. You can go through your whole paddock in winter time and get minimal growth. And I don't want anyone out there to be disheartened about the regenerative farming and start in winter time and then find out your growth isn't what you expected, and you'd say, well, this is not working. Regenerative farming is not for me. So the 3 options would be you start in winter like I mentioned, but remember you've come from a continual grazing paddock, so I'm not expected to have a lot of grass or forage on the ground. When I first started mine 2.5 years ago, I had about 100 mil and I started in winter, so it was hard. So I didn't put out fodder, but I tell you what, those girls found it hard for the whole winter to get enough grass. But because I gave it recovery, when they're continuous grazing, they're coming back every 4 days and chewing off that new growth. Because I'd let it go and I'd give it the 35 days rest, the grass was longer than if it was being continual grazed all year round. So yes, it was hard for the first 35 days, but then once it come back to that same area, it was longer, guys, because you've got that fertility in the ground now. Because you've got the cattle's in small cell, you've got more fertility in the way of the urine and the dung on the ground. So the microbes and the worms and the dung beetles will be able to utilize that fertility and take it to the ground to feed back your plants. So option 1 is winter time, but instead of do it hard like I did, guys, roll out some hay in the areas. So if you've got no grass on the ground, or let them chew the grass for a few hours first, let them use what grass there is, then roll out hay, and they will eat that hay. Make sure it's spread out, guys, so you're not putting in big clumps and wrecking the grass. Just distribute it evenly across the ground, not too thick, that way it's not going to sit in one area and kill your grass underneath. Just evenly spread it out thinly across the ground. The cows will eat that, but you want to put enough down they eat it. There's enough there they trample on it, and you leave about 30% of what you've put out on the ground so they can defecate on it. You've got that manure and that urine which they won't eat, and that's adding your armour to the ground, because remember, you've come from continuous grazing where you had no armour. So you're artificially putting that armour on the ground. So make sure you give them enough that they are leaving some behind. So you're already building up that thatch on your ground to be able to break down into topsoil. And just gradually move them through and feed them the whole time in cells if you haven't got enough grass. If you have got enough grass in winter, just move them through and trample that armour down, but just make sure you give it that rest. Option number 2, guys, is to start in spring, or when the spring flush is here, like I mentioned, and the grass is starting to come back to life, because you've got a lot more warm season there now. And hopefully you get those summer rains and it will just take off, and then you just move them through your paddock continuously and just like I said, give it full recovery, guys, 35 days. And as you get on, like I have, you know, that recovery time, a minimum 35 day, guys, you know, when you're starting off, it's probably going to be more like 45 to 55 days to get graft growth. But I'm up to 35 days now, and sometimes less, because I've been doing it 2.5 years. So moving through the cell in summer after that flush starts, you know, you get all the rain, and you'll have ample growth there, guys. Or my third option is, if you don't want to start, and you don't want to either have spring or winter, and you wish to start now, I'm not sure what season it's going to be, any time, like no time like the present, what you could do, guys, if you've got a bigger property and you've got a spare paddock, not on a spare paddock, a paddock that you can dedicate to regenerative farming, you can start cell grazing through that now, guys, whether it be winter, autumn, spring. You know, if it's winter time, just cell graze them through, but don't bring them back until that grass is fully recovered. You know, let them continue to graze the rest of your property, and then bring them back when it's fully recovered. And at which point, over a period of 6 or so months, 7 months, you'll notice the difference in the small amount of time of the concentration of the urine and the fertilizer through the butt fertilizer they're putting on the ground. It should be a vast difference than the paddocks do continual grazing. The grass will be longer because you're giving it time to recover. There's more nutrients and fertility in that soil now because you've got a concentration of, you're bringing the cattle in the area, you bring them in, you know, you're bringing them density grazing. So without further ado, guys, we'll go and do this paddock walk, and I'll show you what they've had overnight in the paddock they were in, or during the day, sorry, and then I'll talk about what they've laid down, what they've done to me, and then I'll show you where they're going into tonight. And we'll let them in there and they'll have a bit of munch around. But after that, guys, what I want to do is I'll show you, because what I plan doing is filming the exact same area where I started my regenerative farming 2.5 years ago. I took a video on my mobile phone. The quality is not great, guys, so I will apologize now for the quality of the video when I first started, but it's all I've got on the first day that I started my regenerative farming, guys, or my cell grazing. You'll notice I've got 2 wires set up on my O'Brien step ends of poly braid. So what it was is, that was my first time I ever tried, so I was training as well. So I had the 2 lines set up so they couldn't go under, it couldn't go over. But once I got them through the whole paddock, which was, for this only 2.5 acre paddock, it took 10 days to get through cell graze. At the end of that 10 days, the last couple of days, I reduced it back to that 1 wire at about 38 inches, 40 inches. Because they were no longer getting out underneath. I only had 1 calf that was getting out anyway, so, but yeah, I do apologise for the quality, guys. But the main things to look at here is check out the fence line. The fence line on my property where I was taking the video was where I was mowing. So that's my house property, and beyond that was the continual graze paddock of the training paddock. So, and you'll notice, with no word of a lie, I still reckon the ground in the continuous graze paddock was shorter than my lawn that I was constantly mowing. Apart from the top end, which you'll see is where my septic tank is. The grass started off this high, but the rest of it would have been 4 inches. And check out the water container, because what I've done is I've placed the watering container in the exact same location 2.5 years on. So we're in the paddock now, guys. This is typical what I'm leaving behind now. So there'd be, I don't know, maybe areas down to 100 mil up to maybe 8 inches. That's probably a foot high there. It come to seed, so that's why they didn't touch it, because I had them out getting serviced by the bull. But have a look at the mouthful of grass these cows have got in their mouth. When they take a mouthful, guys, it is massive. I can 100%, 110% guaranteed their mouth wasn't looking like that, or are looking like that, the cattle I've got on the other farm when on their continual graze property. They haven't got the luxury of doing that, picking and choosing from a smorgasbord and have grass hanging out their mouth. They are just absolutely loving it. And that's what it's all about, guys, and that's why they put on so much condition, because they're not walking for their food, it's there. You know, this is I'll go back an area and I'll show you, as I promised, you know, 2.5 years on, and this is what they're leaving behind, guys. They're leaving that behind, laying that armour down. So I can pull through that armour now, you know, go through there, and you see the dead area. That was from previous. And I did keep digging through that, you know, and there it starts to, there's the decaying matter. You know, a bit of fungus in there. I dig through that, dig down, and I've probably got maybe 10-15 mil of armour that's decaying. That's not including the 2 layers of armour which recently put down, but yeah, 10 to 15 that's decaying, and then I've got the bare soil. So realistically, there's probably 15 mil, you know, of decaying soil, and there's maybe another 10-15 mil of decaying matter, plus the fresh stuff which has been laid down now. So, you know, that's probably looking at maybe an inch of armour on the surface, guys. And that's why your water stays in there, guys, because you've got that on the ground. Continual grazing, you haven't got that, guys. And I tell you, it's not hard, guys. It's not hard to do. If I can do it, I can guarantee anyone can do it. It's not rocket science, guys. You just got to move them. You just got to try and mob them up so you get the benefit of them eating with their 5 mouths. You say 5 mouths, Jason? Well, you think about it. They're eating with one. The 4 hooves, when they trample on that grass, the cows ain't going to come and eat it, guys, because they've actually, you know, they've actually ruined that grass. They've actually soiled the grass with their hooves where they're walking. Another cow can sense that and smell it, especially if they've been through manure. That's why it's 5 mouths, because they're virtually eating with 5, because there's area in their mouth, and the area is their hooves trampling down, which another cow won't touch. But that's adding back that carbon that you need, guys, to build the topsoil over time, that decaying topsoil. So it's not rocket science, guys, and you know, it is a scary process. You're not sure whether you're leaving too much or you're not leaving enough. I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter what you leave. Like, here's an area here, guys. This wouldn't be any more than, you know, an inch or 4 inches. But also, if you have a look, the reason why it's so low is because of the candy. This is an area of clover, you know, but I used to stress about that, you know, but the area next to it's a foot high. So you're going to get areas like this, guy. Over time, you'll eventually get that laid down. You become more comfortable with what you're leaving behind. You know, it's a worrying journey at first. You get worried, am I doing the right thing? But guys, the more you do it, the more comfortable you come with doing it, and you'll know in your own mind that you're doing the right thing. And you'll, you know, there'll be times where you might leave them a bit longer, you might take them out a bit sooner. The simple reason is because there may be, you know, a lot of grass down and they haven't eaten it. But, you know, you come to the point where you make those decisions for yourself, you know. People say it's a timing thing. It's not really timing, guys. People say it's 45 days, 45 days. It's got nothing to do with 45 days. It's got to do with the pasture recovering before you bring them in. So, you know, it roughly works out around 35 to 55 days, but there's no set timing on it. You can't put a set time on it. It's when the recovery of the pasture is ready to bring them back in. So, you know, it's just all trial and error, guys. And like I said, but it's an experience you'll enjoy. I believe you me, like, you know, you'll love it, because when you see pasture like this, and you know you're helping the environment, you're cutting down the effects of global warming because you're holding the moisture in the ground and the soil's not as hot. You know, you're doing the best thing for everybody, for you, the health of the animals, and the environment. Okie dokie then, let's bring them into this new area. They can sense what's going on, guys. They're not silly. They're looking forward to this fresh cellar bar which you're about to walk into. They know when I come out and I'm near this gate that it's going to be move time, so let's pull it up and we'll let them in. Rightio, girls. Come on, girls. Come on, girls. Come on, girls. Yeah, nice girls. Good girls. Good girls. Come on, girls. Check out the hideout pasture, guys. Wouldn't you be happy if you're a cow? Totally predictable. You're enjoying that, aren't you, Rainey, hey? Our first bit of strip grazing. Just trying out it on the new farm before we head out to the big one. Got 3.5 poly braid and the O'Brien posts, insulated posts, and obviously down the end there the Tarragate reel. So this is the first time we've tried it, so hopefully we get some results and get a bit of this ground pushed down for carbon, and we'll let you know how it goes. And 2.5 years on, guys, this is what good regenerative farming practices have done for me. Check out the pasture height in comparison to the last video you just watched. Anyone can do this, guys. If I can do it, you guys can do it. Righto guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm just going to set up the cell for tomorrow and move the water across and then call it evening, I'd say. So have a great morning, have a terrific afternoon and an awesome evening, guys, wherever you're watching this from, and we'll catch you later.